It's the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee. I sent you an email, actually. So the email that said, like, connect to the meeting, there's just a link that you click on it. It's like, what does it say? It's like 2fit something or.
That was the easiest way to get through it. I mean, Jen's email from before was too confusing.
Yeah, it's really confusing. There's a link. I think it says instructions for Thursday's WebEx. I sent one day ago, and it says like 2fit.mywebex.com. Join. All right, well, let's begin. Santina's having connection. She's going to try to phone in. All right. So, how has everybody been this last month? Everybody well?
Can't complain.
Everybody's okay. All right, that's good.
Should not complain.
All right, so Ed did send out the minutes of the Thursday, August 20th regular meeting. Was there any comments? Did anybody make any comments? He did not send anything to me, so I'm assuming no. All right, so that's
this is Laura.
Okay. All right, so Jay, you are going to record this as our secretary, right?
Yep.
Okay, so a motion to approve the minutes from Thursday, August 20th.
So moved.
So moved. Laura has so moved. Seconded?
Seconded.
Mike. Mike is seconded. All in favor, raise your hands. And I believe it is unanimous. All right, great. All right, so on the docket for today, the very, very first thing is we do need to have a new secretary. So I did ask Jay if he would be willing to step in for today, but we do have to vote because it is a position, it's appointed position. So Jay, I should ask you first, is this something you'd be willing to do moving forward?
I have to think about it, but possible. I want to see how this goes. How's that?
All right,
I know that's not a great answer.
Yeah. If there's anybody else that would be willing as well, I mean, again, just let me know, and by the end of the meeting, hopefully, Bill, I haven't seen your face in a while. There you are.
Yeah, I know. I'm on my phone.
Okay, so we're going to go for that. Of course, you do know that we do need a new member to replace Ed Lane. I'm just asking everybody if you can reach out to anybody that you know. Please just send them an email. If they are interested, they should email both me and Jennifer Carpenter from the First Select Woman's office, because it basically, I have to ask Jennifer, I think there was like an application or some questions that they have people do. So I just have to follow up with her to make sure that happens. But again, if you do know of anybody, you're in touch with anybody, even somebody maybe emailed you in the past, just please let them know, because I'd like to have a new member in place as soon as we possibly can. Okay?
Keith, one question we had, does this member have to be from a particular political party to balance the committee?
I do know Ed was a Republican. I know there's a number of Democrats on the committee. I actually don't know who is what party affiliation, and there's a number of people that are unaffiliated. So I have to check with with Jennifer to find out what's the makeup of our group currently, but I do believe that we have to be balanced by party. Like, we can't have all Democrats or something, or all Republicans. So it does, I do believe we would have to find somebody that's either unaffiliated or Republican, I believe. But let me find out.
But you were going to check with that as of last meeting, because I don't want to be asking, if I find a Democrat who's interested, I don't want them to go through the motions of putting in an application.
Well, I was going to when I went to meet with the First Select Woman, but it was kind of like a meeting was a little quicker than I thought it was going to be, and Jennifer had stepped out when I had left the meeting, so I hadn't have a chance to follow up with her. So I will do it. I do apologize. It's been extremely busy for me at work, and I've been trying to keep up with everything I've got going on. So, but all that said, I did meet with the First Select Woman a few days ago, and it was more of just a meet and greet. We had an opportunity to sit down. I did print out I very quickly put together kind of a summary of what we've been doing. I was going to make a full annual report, but I hadn't had time to do that. So I just kind of put together some of the stuff that we had been doing with a summary of the Complete Streets program. And I talked about our routes and the things, that we've installed over the past. Of course, giving credit to Engineer Hurley. She had nice things to say about you, and as well Santina as you. Just to say that we've had a lot of support from people in the town. You guys did send some emails to me. I was able to kind of, get some things, some things asked. It was a lot quicker than I thought it was going to be. But especially Karen, you did send me that thing about Wilson Street, and she was very impressed by that. And she would like maybe to have something a little bit more concrete that we can share with the public about kind of how the process works. You know, or somebody from the public had come to us, and you know, it's part of the Complete Streets, but also at the same time, it's part of the town. So we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But overall, yeah, it was a good meeting. She was very happy with some of the things that we've done, happy about the press releases and the routes and the safety messages that we've put into the weekly report. And I asked her if she would still be including that. And she said, yes, definitely, because people keep asking about it. But all that said, you know, Jennifer had mentioned to me that they continue to get a lot of complaints, and it's usually drivers complaining about cyclists and runners, cyclists complaining about drivers and runners complaining about cyclists and drivers, if that makes any sense. So everybody seems to be complaining about everybody else. And, you know, again, we were talking a little bit about the idea of enforcement and the things we can do, you know, since we are just a volunteer committee. So that's, you know, she's at least is aware of what we're doing. I did give her a list of all the members' names, so she does have everybody's name, and that was that. So if there's any questions, I'll kind of just stop right there and see if anybody wanted to ask anything.
Well, I think I just encourage us to keep sending out the rules of the road for drivers, cyclists, bicyclists. I mean, I got yelled at for not biking on the sidewalk by a driver.
What? Yeah, there's a lot of
course, he's ignorant.
miscommunication.
Yeah, I mean, people don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure if anybody else is having problems. I'm getting a lot of like the videos are starting and stopping. My audio is fine just because I'm on a call in, so I'm not sure if other people are having troubles, but this happens every now and then.
Yeah, we hear you, but don't see you right now.
Okay, I think I am going to turn off my. Well, I'll keep it on for now. Yeah, I mean, again, we're trying to just keep up with the you know, the education. I think we'll talk a little bit about the sign in a little bit, but I think maybe we'll just move right into our engineering update while we have Bill on the phone. I see you're muted, but Bill, if you wanted to pop on and.
Yeah, sure. As you mentioned before, the Wilson Street, we've been working with Santina and the DPW. They're all set, I think, to put in the curb either today or tomorrow for the bulb out on Buena Vista at Wilson. And the sidewalk is completed, and it now allows the neighborhood there to do a complete loop, as that was a missing section. So far, I haven't had any complaints about it, so that's good, and a couple of positives. So that was one thing. We're looking at for the week of October 19th to have the Stratfield Four Corners area to have a public informational meeting. And then we're going to try to do the week before, but it might be the week after, to do one for the Southport connectivity. Same thing, had the public informational meeting. They have to be virtual. You know, a couple of months ago, we had our fingers crossed that they might be allowed to be held outside, but it seems like it's going to be virtual. There was something that did come across my desk, and I wanted to bring it up to the Bike and Ped Committee to feel if this is one of those things that, you know, how you feel. Do you let it slide with DPW? Do you fight it or whatever? But as you know, DPW's budget's very limited, and we're getting more and more requests for either fixing sidewalks or putting new ones in. And the DPW budget, even just to repair the sidewalks, is probably somewhere between like $30,000 and $50,000, $70,000 at most, if it includes new sidewalks. And so they're looking at, when there's a request for a dead end street and it's only a couple of sections or something like that, maybe taking them out. And the acting director, Brian Carey, had asked me if we take a look at our policy. So we don't have a written policy with it. A lot of the sidewalks were put in based on the zoning. If you have a 3-lot subdivision, you put in the 3 lots, have a sidewalk. The hope is that it would continue on, throughout the neighborhood or whatever. But if you have a 5-lot subdivision with only 5 or, 3 cars an hour, and now it's, from the 1970s, to spend money to rip that up and replace it when maybe it could go somewhere else, is an interesting thought. And that's where I think the committee would have some input maybe on if we were to allow this, it would be in the hopes of that money is not spent elsewhere in the budget, but actually to be spent elsewhere on sidewalks that are more commonly used or something like that, So anyway, I just wanted to let, it's the very beginning stages, but we've had 2 or 3 requests in the last, say, month for these types of sidewalks. And I wanted to let the committee know about it.
I'm not going to speak for everybody, but just in my personal opinion, I just wanted to ask for clarification. You were saying that where there are broken sidewalks, the option would be either to repair them or just completely remove them, and DPW is leaning towards removing them?
That would be correct. I'm putting the caveat on that it would be for really complete sidewalks to nowhere, or sidewalks that are in desperate need of repair, and like for short dead end street. Obviously, it's especially with the COVID going on, the pedestrian usage is a lot more, especially on the through streets or neighborhood connectors. So as I said, this is just coming to today actually, and I just figured it was just a good discussion point, and obviously we can continue this conversation. I just wanted to, in all fairness to the Bike and Pedestrian Committee, to be aware. And I'd also have to check with zoning too.
Yeah. Maybe I ask Ann and Laura as our complete streets experts, would this fall into something where, like, for example, let's say the request comes in and we have to make a decision either to improve it or remove it. Would that be something where you could kind of run it through the complete streets process and say, okay, well, this is a sidewalk that goes to nowhere. It's not getting used. We were going to recommend that if there is no budget for it, we're going to take it out, or, go the other way. I just want to throw it out there.
Technically, the complete streets doesn't come into play because it's only in effect when we redo an area, that you have to do it with all users in mind. So if we're just replacing something in kind or repairing something in kind, it's not, our policy doesn't come into effect.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it would come into effect if you're going to remove something, so instead we're saying, okay, we've done the studies, we've seen there's no people that are using it, and therefore it's okay to, I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing it out there. I'm trying to
He's
see.
not talking about removing. He's talking about replacing.
No, actually I am talking about removing.
Okay.
Because if it's, I just used a dead end street with 5 houses on it. There is definitely temptation to remove the sidewalk, because with 5 houses on it, the road's really not that busy. Let's just say that's 500 feet of sidewalk. And so they're, rather than spend the funding for that, they want to remove it. Now, one of the other ideas I had is that maybe you would ask for a petition for the neighborhood, because obviously, some people, I didn't want DPW rushing to judgment that because 2 people want it removed. If there's 10 people in the neighborhood or 5 people in the neighborhood, that not everybody might want it removed, number one. And number two, as I said, I think for our group, the honest thing would be is, well, we're hoping then you're using that money to repair a sidewalk somewhere else, and not just carte blanche start ripping up sidewalks, obviously. That would be my input.
Well, would be my feeling as well. I wouldn't want to spend money to repair something that's not useful, and then instead use that money to repair something that is being used and is in need of it. I mean, that's just my opinion. I'll throw it up to others.
Well, I like the idea of canvassing the neighborhood. I think that's a really good idea. Again, I don't think in this case our complete streets policy even particularly affects anything. You're not doing a complete redo of that area. You're just talking about the sidewalk, not the whole road, not the whole streetscape. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Laura, I agree on that, but it's also, extending the fingers a little bit of the complete streets where, the idea of it, if you know what I mean. And I think that's what Keith's going for.
That's fine, and I'm okay with that. But back to now what Keith is saying, it's a matter of limited funds. And do we want to extend the idea and do it someplace else that it's going to be more effective?
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, if anybody has any other additional thoughts, you can certainly email me.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify for myself, like you're talking about this dead end street and people are asking you, it needs to be repaired and they're asking you to take it out? Is that what's happening?
It's a combination. They want now either a new sidewalk because it's all old and crumpled, or they want it to take it out.
Huh. Yeah, that's a scenario we never considered when writing the policy, certainly. So
that's correct.
Yeah, but I do like the idea of canvassing people and seeing. I think that would go to the spirit of the policy, certainly. And also,
and if you think about it too, because part of the complete streets policy is like beautification, and so if the idea is like we've got a disgusting crumbly sidewalk that doesn't really go to any place, well, you're doing some complete streets by turning it into, a pollinator pathway or something. I don't know, a green or something.
Well, that's probably not what's going to, Keith, that's probably not what's going to happen. But I would use the context sensitivity clause, because if contextually that sidewalk isn't really needed there, I think putting the money elsewhere is a good idea as long as the residents are happy with it.
Well, I'd also say, can you guys hear me? I can't.
Yes.
Oh, okay. What's the cost relation to each other? If you already said, Bill, I'm sorry. If it costs, $10,000 to fix it and it's going to last for 10 years, but it costs $5,000 to remove it and then you'll never have to think about it again. That's something to think about too. And I don't know what I'm. Do you have real?
Yeah, real rough estimate. I want to make sure I got it right though. I think the latest contract to like remove and install is probably around $9. So we'll just say $10 a square foot for a sidewalk. So it gives you an idea of if you have a, say, 500-foot sidewalk that's 4 or 5 foot wide, it kind of gives you the idea of, if my math's really quick, it's about $25,000.
So that's a lot of money.
That's expensive. And tearing it up is just the cost of bringing out a, excavator and ripping it up, right?
Yes. And then they made loam and seed, or that might be part of the deal with the neighborhood. And, as I said, this is kind of a new twist, and at least with full disclosure, I wanted to at least bring it to the committee. I don't think anything's going to get resolved right away, but at least initially I could say that I've discussed it with the Bike and Ped committee, and they're open to it. Obviously, they're going to need more information, but but it wasn't like, oh no, we're never going to rip up any sidewalk, or something like that. And I was just trying to, as I said, figure out. And I think everybody here is, on some isolated, and I hopefully that's the term, isolated cases, it might make sense to do that. But obviously, sidewalks that are in heavy use, sidewalks that are near schools or parks, sidewalks on a main road, yeah, we're going to draw the line at that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, all right. I think we all kind of are in agreement, but I never want to assume without discussing it with everybody. So thank you very much. And if you have any other additional thoughts, feel free to email me.
One other thing before you go, Bill.
Sure.
I just happened to notice they repaved a bunch of the sections of the shoreline route down by the beach.
Yep.
And are they going to be restriping them and making sure that they put on our white lines? And again, I know we talked about Beach Road too, like trying to see if they could make them as narrow as possible, so both the north and the south side of the street had a bit of a lane. Because right now it's mostly the south side of the street, as the way they kind of marked them out the first time, but it looks like those went away.
Yeah, well, one of them, I was like, I think it was Beach Road. I'm not sure if they did the whole thing or only half. See, a lot of times these were done because of utility work. And so like even Roland Road that someone had brought up one time, you did half of it. So you're kind of like me, you know, you can't have half of it have the narrow and then the other half, wider, unless it's really, really gradual and nobody will know. But we can look into that. But certainly the DPW and all you have to do is have the Google Street View to say that these roads had the lines on them and they're to be restored.
Bill,
Okay,
I've
does it
really
make
noticed.
sense for us to email them? Go ahead, Karen.
I was just going to say, I really noticed on Sasko Hill because everybody bikes on that. And there's, those have not been put back up. And that's been a long time since they haven't had those repainted.
Okay. All right. If again, on any of that, I used to go out in the field about 20% of the time. Now it seems like about 5%. Feel free if you see that or as a reminder, yes, just send me an email on it and I can either start compiling a list if it seems like there's 4 or 5 of them, and then send it to the line painting contractor, the supervisor at DPW. So feel free, Karen, to remind me. I have no problem at all with that.
Well, I just thought just because that's one of those roads that there's so many bikers and walkers
Yeah.
on right now, I think it would be helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely will. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Bill.
Bill, I have one other question.
Sure.
What's the progress with DPW and clearing up all the debris on the streets?
As of Monday, I still saw them doing some of the work. I can try to find that out. But I know even earlier this week, they were still clearing.
Okay, because it's last time I was out, I haven't been out for a few days. There was still a lot of debris on our bike routes as well.
Mm-hmm. All right, and again, same thing, Laura. If you see something, feel free to email it to me, and then I can forward it to the DPW. And at least at some point, I'd like to think it would be addressed. Obviously, they set their schedule, but there's definitely certain things of there's the aesthetics, or if now all the leaves are dying and it looks like garbage, if you know what I mean. Or it's half, if it's sticking out in a bike lane or a bike route, or it's, protruding 6 feet still into the road, then obviously those should take precedence,
Yeah, and that's one of the ones, and I haven't been out for several days, but on Brookside, there's one totally covering the shoulder.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, as I said, feel free to
I don't know if
send
it's still there.
a reminder. So, because I won't be into work tomorrow. That I'm having a 5-year procedure. So.
Okay. I'm only guessing.
Yeah,
we're on board with that.
I
Good
kind
luck.
of gave it a hint. Yeah. So, anyway, so that's why I asked to just to remind me on it.
Okay, will do.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else for anybody, or because then I got to start taking the medicine for it now. So.
Oh, yes.
All right.
Bill-
Thank you, everyone.
Fun.
Yep.
And with that,
Appreciate it. Thanks. Take care.
Bill's in for a fun night. All right.
Yeah.
First, we're just going to do a quick virtual hug for Jay. How you doing on our tail duties? He's muted.
Yep, I'm off. I'm
All right.
good. Yep. Busy.
Very good.
No, you don't
Yeah,
have to do
and-
verbatim what
No,
everybody
I'm,
said.
that's not going to happen. No.
Good. It's basically the topic they talked about, unless we vote on it.
No, I'm taking pictures. I'm drawing, doodling here, all sorts of things.
All right, Santina, you there? Are you reconnected? I see you. I see the mute's off, and we're gonna now hear the voice of Santina.
I am, and Keith, I sent you an email that says I give up, but I did not give up. I am here.
Yeah, you don't give up. I didn't see that.
Oh yeah, because I got so frustrated. I was trying it on the computer, and then I was trying it on my phone, and then I called in and I said, "Thank you for attending the meeting," and hung up on me. So, but I did try one more time, and here I am. Not too much to report. I think Bill already talked about Wilson Street. I'm just waiting for the invoices from DPW for that. But they think they were able to spend the $9,000, which is good because it ends in 2 weeks. The other thing is I did get a application from the state for what we want to do for year 2. And I know we kind of said we don't necessarily need to do Wilson Street. Is there a project that we had in mind or that you guys had in mind that you want me to write for specifically, or I'm completely fine with keeping it general again, and then we can kind of take it from there when we have like a little bit more time.
I love an in-ground pool, but I don't know if it's for health and well-being, right? Anybody? Let's throw it out there.
I know what prepared at this time to give a specific.
Yeah, I just know that there was some conversation when you guys voted on supporting the Wilson Street. So I just want to check in and see, because I don't really remember if there was something specific we had talked about or just kind of tabled it. So for the time being, I'll just put something generic and it'll be fine. So, but other than that,
nodding. I'm not sure you can see everybody, but they're all nodding. So great.
But other than that, that's it.
Excellent. One thing about the Wilson Street, I'm not sure, maybe Mike, if you wanted to connect, or Mike and Karen, like we've done before, maybe we can get together and try to put together a short little article about how that whole process happened. And, just the one thing the first selectman was like, she was also saying, selectwoman was saying that she didn't want like everybody saying, well, I want a new sidewalk in my neighborhood, because like we just don't have the money for that. But to kind of showcase like a little bit what we've done and how the town has worked together with grants and this and that and the other thing. So maybe we could talk offline at some point during the month about figuring out something that we can provide to them as, again, continue with our press release and outreach.
Would be happy. That's a pretty unique project, and I would be happy to do that.
Okay, Cynthia?
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
So Mike and Karen, I'll connect with you guys because that would be great for something to include in my final report to the state. It's not due for a few more weeks, but yeah, that'd be great to include.
And I would stress the process and the involvement of the community.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just going to say, I have some pictures. I have some pictures as they started, and I'll take some more pictures when they finish it up.
And Karen, if you can send those to me, I know Bill and George have kind of been sending me pictures as they go, but if you can send those to me too, that would be great.
Absolutely. I happened to be walking there last week, right when Keith emailed, and I was about to send it to the whole group. And then Keith said he was meeting with the select woman. So I just sent it to him and said, here are these pictures. But I will definitely send them out.
Awesome. Thank you. And then we'll connect probably next week and see what we can get written up together.
Okay. That sounds great.
Thanks, guys.
Great. Mike, you'll be up next.
Yeah. Do we have before and after pictures? That really helps tell the story, right?
I think Karen said, yeah.
I don't have exactly before, but I bet Sarah might, and I can connect with Sarah and see what she has.
That would be great. I think, again, that'd be really important to say, this is what it looked like, this was the issue, and here's the picture of what we did that addressed it and fixed it.
And if you want to drop the hint that we have a vacancy on the committee, feel free to do that. Again, I don't know political affiliations, but, just might as well drop the hint because she seemed like she might be interested.
Yes, I can definitely reach out to her.
Okay.
She also
All right,
sells
great.
that she and her husband roast coffee, and it's amazing. So if you guys want to buy their roasted coffee, I recommend it.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, Buena Vista
Well,
Roasters.
I don't drink coffee, so I guess I'll have to pass.
It's got to be as strong as possible for me. All right, Santina, I know you're busy, and I will. If you'd like to stay, please do. If you wanna go, and I'll be happy for that as well.
All right, then with that, I'm gonna go do bedtime with my two little guys and save my husband, who I can hear everyone screaming downstairs. So.
Sounds good. All right, thanks, Santina.
All right,
I always
bye,
appreciate
guys.
you coming to the meeting.
If you guys need anything, please let me know.
Okay. One quick thing about the police. I did see Gary Wickman the other day when I was going back and forth to Home Depot on our library to library route. They were doing like utility work or whatever, and he was directing traffic. And I had a nice 2-minute conversation with him as I was waiting for the other people to come. But he said, he's just not real big on the Zoom meetings and everything. But if you ever need anything, just email him. And he's hoping to be back with us when we're back live. Oh, and I should mention that as well. I did ask the first select woman when that might be, and she said at least not until the beginning of 2021. Mostly because they don't have the staff and the resources to clean the rooms. That's the way they need to be cleaned at the end of each meeting. Especially if there's going to be like one and the other and the other. So it's like for the time being, it's going to be virtual. So that's unfortunate. I'm not a huge. I'm zoomed out, I think. And I think a lot of people are as well. So it'd be nice to have some human connection again, but it's going to be a little bit longer. Okay.
That makes sense.
I'm gonna kind of just bounce down a little bit. I think I forgot to delete the traffic calming efforts discussion from the thing, but I want to bounce down to the walk on the left sign, just because that actually is kind of a traffic calming measure. And I think Laura, you were the one that saw it somewhere. If you want to just give it a few seconds of your time and explain it.
Yes, it was in Madison, Connecticut, and it's a piece of road that goes along the shoreline there. It's very nice. We were biking from there to Hammonasset, and lots of walkers out, and they had these signs placed in several spots, and I can tell you, absolutely everybody was complying and walking on the left. So they work. But
yeah, and it's simply just a sign that says like ride with traffic and walk against or something like that.
It says,
research.
I sent a photo with it. It said pedestrians walk on the left facing traffic. We're losing you, Keith. Can't hear you.
Sorry, my dog was driving me crazy, scratching at the door, so I had to go get her. She's right there.
Okay, could you hear me, Keith? Describe the sign.
I've seen the sign, so I was just making sure. I actually Googled a couple of them. There's a bunch of different versions. Bill Hurley did mention that it's not an approved sign, but we could, kind of like we did with the sign that says share the road with the biker, the walker, and the car. We can do it as like an educational sign, and it should be okay. I think we just need approval by the police commission. But if we do get those, we can, maybe we can get Santina to give us some money for those and slap a few up around town.
Yeah, and I think Bill's comment, strategically placed. I'm thinking, and he mentioned Fairfield Beach Road, that's fine. Pequot, going from Southport into Southport, that's a big walker place, and I've frequently see people on the right side of the road there. If we put it in places where there are lots of walkers who aren't obeying, that might get more people to understand the rules, because we can't put them all over town.
Yeah.
But it's happening all over town. So, you'll have people walking with traffic when there's a sidewalk. It just, I just get so frustrated. I see Mike.
Yeah, so I'm thinking not only picking places strategically have lots of walkers, but also lots of walkers where we don't have sidewalks, right?
Right.
So, I mean, I live on Pine Creek, South Pine Creek. We've got sidewalks on both sides of the road down to Oldfield. Oldfield, same thing, down to almost about 500 yards before you get to the beach, and then it stops. And that's where, you know, it'd be useful to remind people where there's not a sidewalk, you know, walk against traffic.
I agree.
And I'm wondering, there are other places in town to nominate to get signs like that.
We might want to each of us start keeping a list, taking notes of, you know, places that are fairly heavily trafficked with pedestrians that there aren't sidewalks.
Excellent. We'll bring it up with Santina, and hopefully we can get the, you know, see what we need to do to get those approved and put up. But I think it's a great idea. Is everybody still there? Everybody just froze on me.
Here.
I see.
Okay.
Still here.
Okay. All right. All right. Next up, actually, Laura's as well is the bike tours.
Did anybody? Yeah, Keith, I couldn't hear you. You came out again.
Yeah, sorry. It's the bike tours would be the next thing we were going to talk about.
Yeah. Did any of you get a chance to see the email I sent out like 40 minutes ago?
I looked at it. I didn't see any part on the site that had anything to do with bikes. I saw, you know, fitness was like local gyms and Pure Bar or whatever. And
You had to click on tours.
I looked on that too. I didn't see any tour. I didn't see it.
And then
So
below that there were bike tours.
Let's go back.
I saw,
Let's
Laura,
go
I saw
back
both of them, and I read through them. They were interesting. It's interesting how they classify Southport. In fact, that is a route that starts over, I think, by the train station, and then takes you, you know, over to Bronson, and then down Bronson into Southport Village. Well, that's a fairly narrow road. I'm not sure if you want to send a cyclist down there.
Well,
did you see parts of it that you thought were problematic?
Yeah, you're speaking to my concern. I said I'd get them a good map of our approved bike routes, and I haven't been able to do anything but try to pull one off our website. I don't know who put that map, gave that map to the town to put on the website. There must be a better version. But
so actually, it's a Google map. So I can respond to them because it's basically they can. I just took a screenshot of it, and it's just a Google map. So
that's not what was submitted. Was that what was submitted to the town to put it on the website? Our website.
Yeah. So there's two things. There's a screenshot of the routes themselves, but then within the website there's a link that takes people to the Google map that tracks very similar to the Strava routes that Nate had sent to me. So there's two things. One is an image, and the other is an actual. Okay, I'm sorry. WebEx says it's stopping on me here, so I'm not going to do anything. It's just circling. I think you can still hear me because I'm called in. But
we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I didn't realize that. So there's a way to send them the link to the Google. So my first concern is they've now put up routes that aren't our routes and aren't necessarily on roads that we considered safe and that the police commission has blessed as safe. So, you know, while I like the concept of what he's doing, and if you go down and you click on each spot on the route, he shows a photo of a historic site or a beach or something that's located at that spot. And that's all very lovely, except I don't think people are biking and clicking on these spots. I don't know how they would navigate with that, but it concerns me what roads they're riding on. I wondered how everybody else felt.
I'm just looking at the route right here. I'm just trying to get the Southport back. It's really written very poorly.
It was confusing to follow too.
Okay, so basically it's an out and back. None of these roads necessarily concern me in terms of the safety situation, except for that whole Five Corners intersection by the Carlton convalescent home and Sturgis and Mill Plain. That intersection is dangerous, for anybody because there's just cars coming from 5 different directions and they all have a stop sign. So it's hard to get, whether you're first to go or not. I think more, I agree with you. I think it would make more sense to show a unified front and show people the routes that we have taken time to mark and set up with the town, with approval from the town on these various things. So
I don't much care about the walking tours. I didn't even look at them because for the walking tours, I don't care what they do. It's a different scenario. But the biking, that's what concerned me. So I don't know, what do you want me to tell Mark Barnhart? We want to vote on something?
Probably send them the. Also, I think I'm getting.
You got to mute your computer.
I had a. Yeah, hold on a second. I have to.
There you go. You're muted on the computer now. You should be able to use the phone.
Now you're frozen. I'm not laughing at you.
Still muted.
Mike, can't hear you either. Mike, we can't hear you either. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
We can't hear Mike or Keith. Looks like they're dialing in again.
So Laura, can you hear me?
I can.
How did you find out about the tours?
Mark Barnhart sent me an email.
Oh.
Wanted my input on it. And I was like, have you seen our bike routes? And I thought I'd get them a way to link to it, to use that. But I really wanted to talk to you guys to see if you like the idea of the tour. It was fine, except I don't see how somebody can use it while they're riding. Hey.
Yep. Everything crashed.
You're better.
Yes.
All right. Where were we?
Now, yeah.
I'm sorry.
So we were trying to decide what we tell Mark.
I'm of the mindset that we should.
Go ahead, Nate.
Sorry. I'm of the mindset that we should utilize the tools that we've spent a lot of time and effort to develop, and the town should. I mean, he should as well. economic development. That's fantastic. You know, the routes that he's got in some ways mirror routes that we already have. And he should utilize those. So that's it.
You want him to utilize our published bike routes. But what he's doing is he keeps taking side jogs to go to a site that are not, so he's going off the bike routes to a site.
Right. I mean, and again, I don't need to have ownership of the routes themselves, but I do think that, you know, those are signed, they're marked, they're, you know, we've integrated with the police. We have permission to make sure that these roads are fundamentally safe for cyclists and walkers and people to use. So I think it's weird that he would not utilize those resources that exist in our town.
Well, there might be an element of confusion as well. I mean, if people, it's like, here's a tour, here's a route. Now, are they the same? Are they different? I think people using them might come upon them and think, you know, which is which, and maybe a disclaimer or some sort of explanation. As I know, the site is very pretty because that's what it's supposed to be, but having an explanation saying there are in fact other routes that have been devised and developed by the Bike and Ped Committee, and these are not them, but you might want to check those out as well.
Right. I mean, I would love to see on the landing page when you click on bike tours. You know, the town of Fairfield is diverse and
mission statement.
Yeah, well, yeah, just sort of, you know, we're a diverse town, and we're excited to, you know, we welcome cyclists of all abilities, and it's a great place to ride a bike. You know, look at these 3 or 4 routes that we've got, and look at these tours, and if they want to go, I mean, I think what they did is cool on the Southport one. If you click, there's a picture along the route of different things that you can see. So different points of interest along the route. That's things we don't do and we're not really tasked with doing. It's perfect for their bailiwick. And they can absolutely do that. And then they can sort of piggyback onto our work and make it you know, more robust and thoughtful for their end user.
So I'm going to try to state what I think I heard, that we suggest that Mark start with our published bike routes and display that route map. And then if he wants to do these tours, maybe he should say from the such and such route, you could take a side jog to such and such point or something like that. I don't know. How do I say it to him?
The first thing is you can do is put you can just, if you give him the web page, our Bike and Pedestrian Committee web page, that has the link to the routes on it into the actual Google Maps. So the intern put that all up there. So that's all on the web page. And then I'll leave it to Nate to make his comment. But from a resource perspective, it is on the town's page right now.
It's just, how does he integrate that with what he's doing? Do we have a comment of how he would integrate that?
Well, I feel like I'm monopolizing the conversation here. I don't need to, but I think that the way that he would integrate that is to, first of all, learn our bike routes, figure out where they go, and then build his tour off of these pre-existing bike routes. These are signed. We have sharrows on the road. There's an expectation. Drivers have an expectation of encountering cyclists on these routes because they see them all the time. So I think it's a better thing to do than to have them sort of willy-nilly going up Sturgis Road, which may or may not be safe, or coming onto the highway on Mill Plain, which may or may not be safe. You know, we chose not to go that way on our bike routes for a reason.
I think that's good phrasing. Thank you, Nate. You're not monopolizing, you're helping.
And Marcus, he's very good. We have connected with him several times over the year. What in our best interest to educate him to how he can utilize what we've already done, and some education of all the varying balance. really didn't know the things that we had done over the last 5 years, and so I wanted to make sure that was communicated and what we've been working on. Let her know what we're trying to build what we've done into. Thank you. Regional trails in the town are as much, but Tina and Vancouver from MetroCog, we got together at the end of August, and what they're doing is across the state of Connecticut, they're trying to map out trails, like trails that exist. And I guess there's somebody named Brian Carey from the town of Fairfield. He mapped out a bunch of trails that existed, and he showed us how they did it up in Litchfield County. But they're going to have an intern this summer or this year, over the next year, and they're going to hike all the trails in Connecticut. And so he was just connecting with Santina and myself, and he said, if we have any trails or parks or areas of interest, the things that we want mapped or included on this walking tour, it's a database called a regional trail database. So it's mostly happening between like the town and MetroCog, but he was just asking for our input. So I just wanted to bring it up to the group. So if there are certain areas, I'm gonna have to get Santina back. Maybe I'll just ask her to go over it again, because I don't have access to the database. He just showed a screenshot, so I don't even know what they have in there currently. But it's just another resource, and eventually we'll be able to put links to it on our website. So I just wanted to bring that up.
And these are not open spaces. These are trails that are proposed or trails that exist. Okay.
The conservation the conservation department, whatever you call it, they have trails on all the open spaces. They have maps now with all the trails.
He did say that we got a lot of Larkfield already. He got a lot of stuff and a lot of resources. It's just he's just trying to connect with everybody, basically. So, she put him in touch with a couple of people. I just wanted to let everybody know about it.
Did he include the Aspetuck Land Trust? No.
I don't know. I'm sure that would be the. I'll mention that to Santina, but I'm fairly sure it does.
And the other thing include is, if they'd be okay with it, is the Audubon trails. Okay. That's another place that's not town, that's private.
Okay, I'm just writing these down.
And the Aspetuck Land Trust, which is, Easton, Monroe, wherever. I think it touches into Fairfield, but they have some nice trails up there.
Okay. All right. Okay. The last couple of things was Mary Hogue called me last night, and their sustainability thing. In the agenda. Anybody particular? Her thing was basically anything bike, walking, pedestrian, good. The Fairfield School thing. So trying to I didn't policy, but things that are like more exciting, like, oh, okay, but if anybody has any ideas. Flag and what I'm talking and when I'm hearing.
Are you talking on Keith, are you talking on a speakerphone?
I'm not.
Is
It's
your
some.
phone on speaker?
It's not. I'm on a microphone, and it's not connecting very well. So I'm apologizing. I tried to dial in again, and it
Okay.
wouldn't let me do it. It wouldn't let me do it. So I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, I heard about one of every 3 words you just said.
I think. Is there anything else that anybody wants to bring up? I'm almost done here with the meeting and also with my day. So. I think we're ready to wrap it up. Again, I apologize for some of these connectivity issues. Go ahead.
Were we going to have any further discussion about traffic calming? Is that just, I mean, because I don't know what we can do as our committee, but if there's something. Ann, do you have an idea?
Yeah, this has come out of a long discussion I had about a bunch of other things, but just about how I know a lot of people, not a lot, but regularly I get asked like, oh, you're on the bike ped, can you guys help us here, this street, whatever. And I don't really know what to say because like the woman on Wilson Street, like she did a lot of work herself. And I usually say, you got to get neighborhood buy-in and all that kind of stuff if you want a particular project to happen. But anyway, so that kind of started me thinking like maybe there is something that we should be doing, like in kind of like along the Complete Streets Committee, like an extension of what we were working on. Anyway, there's so many thoughts in my head, but I had to call the that conversation was with Jill Vergara, who's an RTM rep, and Alyssa Israel, who regularly comes to the meetings and everything. And Alyssa told me to contact Emmeline because she has access to all of the planning and zoning people in Connecticut and just ask a question about whether or not they have traffic calming wording in their POCD. So I had to I sent Emmeline an email and she wrote back and sent me some things, but then I also had to, for a different reason, because my garage was completely destroyed in that storm last month, I had to contact the planning department and I didn't expect to talk to her, but she picked up the phone and I was like calling about permits and whatever. And she was like, oh, so we started talking and she got a couple of responses for the POCD comment, but then the end of our conversation, trying to keep this short, was that she suggested maybe a group of us going back and looking at the original, like the group who was before us, looking at their kind of master plan that they had and areas and streets that they had identified as having issues, and maybe updating that list because she said that they regularly refer to those things. And maybe we could look at possibly updating the list of streets, and also, sorry, I'm just looking at my notes. Oh, look for networks of streets like that have to do with things other than just the planning department. So her suggestion was, because the Department of Ed has kids who are living, for elementary school, I think it's within a half a mile of or 3/4 of a mile of the school, you don't get a bus, you walk. And so maybe we should look at like networks of sidewalks along those, within those radius around the schools and kind of try and start there. And then that's more of like a concentrated specific effort towards a goal as opposed to kind of one-off things that might help people, but it's not really doing like a town-wide effort, if I'm making any sense. So anyway, I thought that was a good idea or a place to start, or if anybody else has other ideas, maybe we can think about that.
I do have a copy of that master plan.
Right. This conversation I had with her was yesterday, so I haven't been able to like do anything about it. But I know I read it many years ago. But I think I might have a copy of it too somewhere.
Yeah, because to the point you're making, it's hard for us to have a general overall impact on calming town-wide. You have to actually work in specific areas where you think you can make an impact.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's what are we going to do? Tell the police to get more patrol cars out? Well, that's not going to happen.
Right. Right. So, well, like she was saying, it should be kind of like if it's kind of across different areas of town government, there would be, like buy-in or perhaps money from different pots to pull from if you could identify different things that needed to be done within those areas.
But the
Probably
idea
no
would,
money right now, but maybe eventually.
Right. Yeah.
but the idea would be just to summarize, the idea would be sort of thematically to say if we go at it from as opposed to all these disparate parts around town, go at it from where are the zones that people feel most are most important, and look for traffic calming around schools.
Right, or like areas that people expect to be able to walk, or the government expects them to be able to walk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you're right, schools you could get, perhaps, I don't know enough about it, a Board of Ed and, police, Board of Ed, any number of groups that would see it as a plus for the town.
Right. And people come to us with these issues anyway, and then we could say like, oh, we've identified these. And like last year, you guys were at North Stratfield School, right? Talking about that. And that could be part of an overall, just, even if it's just a list of streets and how many people are there, what, I don't know. Like I said, this conversation was yesterday, so I haven't had all the time in the world to think too much about the details, but I thought it might be nice to kind of carry on like a new project, like now that Complete Streets is done, it might be nice to have another thing to kind of work on like that.
Well, we ought to try.
Hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I dialed back in, so I'm hoping this is going to work a little bit better now. But
you're frozen in video, but we can hear you.
I'm going to stop my video. You don't need to see. You know what I look like. Yeah, I think it's a great idea, and I think it's anything, as every year we like to try to identify kind of what's coming up for the future, and I think that it's come up a lot over and over and over again by numerous people. And so, again, especially as people are getting out on the roads, and I'm hoping that it's not going to completely shift away. If I'm hoping everything gets back to normal soon. But I do think that people are going to want to stay out on the roads and walk and bike and run it. So it's kind of been a good thing for a lot of people. And if anything we can do to make it safer for anybody and involve multiple stakeholders will be the best, definitely.
Yeah.
So I'll try to keep that on the agenda, just the idea of the traffic calming, just to keep that on the agenda so we can bring it up every week. Sorry, I wasn't trying to cut us all off before, but I was getting frustrated with the technology.
Yeah.
I've been online
it's
all
frustrating.
day for
I know.
talking to people, and I'm at my very end of.
I think we can all say the same, probably. Yeah.
Definitely.
So I don't want to belabor the point. I just thought it was a conversation I had, and I thought I would bring it up and see what people thought. That's all. But I'm happy to do it. Yeah. Maybe getting our hands on the master plan is a good way to start.
Definitely. Is there anybody else that had anything that wanted to bring it up? So as we come to a close now, Jay, how did you feel about the whole secretarial position? Is this something that you think you might want to try again?
Why don't you wait until you see my draft?
Yeah.
Would that be
I think
acceptable?
it's already it's better than Ed's already.
Oh,
now we
stop.
can talk
I don't know.
because he's gone.
There's a high bar. I don't know if I can do that. But
well, anyways, we'll bring it up. We'll bring it up for a vote next week. I'll let you kind of sit on it for the month, and I do appreciate you stepping up to the plate for tonight. So
I took a lot of notes.
excellent.
Yeah.
Just so you know, I'm going to stop recording this in a little bit, but what we do have to do is that basically the kind of like the week before the next meeting, Ed usually send them out to us for any comments. Any comments will come back to you, and then we make them, and then we do have to post them to the town website. I might just have to reconnect with Ed because he did that all. I don't really know what the machinations were, like who he actually emailed them to. So we'll all figure that out. He's going to still be in touch, and we can ask him. So.
Okay. Yeah. Finding the person or the robot who did that would be great.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, I think we could probably call it a meeting. So, all in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
In favor.
Karen,
Aye.
you good?
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Well, listen, everybody, stay safe.
You. Thanks,
I
everyone.
really hope we can see each other in person again someday.
We will. Just a matter of
We
when.
will.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Have a nice month,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.